Guys, there's something I want to show you from the Bible. As many of you know, I've alluded to this before. I wrote a book in 2019 about how America is Mystery Babylon. And, there have been various national sins in America. I believe that chattel slavery in the mid 1800s was a national sin, and it was a national sin that was washed away with blood in the Civil War. That was the bloodiest of all American wars. We had good Americans on both sides. And I say good Americans because, we think of the South as being fighting for slavery, but really it was a very small percentage of Southerners who owned slaves. And the rest of the people in the South were just ordinary people who didn't own slaves, and they were fighting for their homes and for their independence and their right to secede from the Union. And it's a completely logical conclusion that since the states voted to join the Union in the first place, that they had the right to secede. In fact, some states like Texas still have that right enumerated in their state-level constitutions. There were good men on both sides of that fight. But slavery itself was a national sin, and it needed to be done away with, and it was. And the United States was one of the first 6 nations in the world to do away with slavery. Whereas in the world there are still, chattel slavery is still a thing, especially in Arab nations, if you really dig into this. So it's very interesting that you have the Democrat Party, party of slavery, party of Jim Crow, party of the KKK, and they also really like bringing in Muslims, who are into all manner of nasty things. They're PDFs, and that's acceptable. We have a Muslim leader from Iran talking about how it's fine to have sex with animals as long as the animal is then slaughtered and fed to infidels. And then these Arab countries are still, in many cases, places where chattel slavery still exists. Chattel slavery and sex slavery. So all of these things are kind of aligned with, the Democrats, who are communists, Marxists, and that's where they want to take society. We have a national sin today, and it's the abuse of children in this country. There are 50,000 PDFs, pedos. I got to be careful with what I say because YouTube has slapped me down with community strikes and blocked my stuff, and they make my comments disappear on a regular basis. There's 50,000 PDFs in the state of Georgia alone. The United States is one of the top countries consuming this garbage. And by consuming it, I mean abusing children. The act of. The United States is a country where 2/3 of all pornography is created, and that probably includes, CP, cheese pizza. If you've studied the Epstein files and Pizzagate, you know what CP is. And then there's abortion, of course, over 70 million. I want you to think about that. Our population is what, like 370 million? 70 million unborn children aborted in this country. What do you think God thinks of that? What do you think God thinks of that when he says that before we were born, he knew us in the womb? He even knew us and who we were going to be before our parts came together in the womb, while we were still just elements in the deepest parts of the earth. The Bible says that children are a gift from God. They're his heritage, his reward. Jesus loved little children. In fact, we see that in these verses that I just pulled up here. I searched MILLSTONE in the King James, and we're going to talk about this. These are the words of Jesus in Matthew 18:6, Mark 9:42, and Luke 17:2. This is an important enough concept that it's mentioned 3 times in the scriptures. Whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he cast into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones. And the Bible goes on to tell us that the guardian angels of children always have an audience before God the Father seated on his throne in the heavenlies. The blood of innocent children is on the hands of America. And the Epstein files revealed that it is so much worse even than that. So much worse. It's interesting then, in light of what I've written in my book, which is called How America Ends. It's on Amazon. About how America is Mystery Babylon. It's interesting how there's this concept where the millstone is actually linked to Mystery Babylon. Look at Revelation 18:21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. So it does say city in this context, but if you study the scriptures, Mystery Babylon is a city and an empire. And it's discussed in many different places. It's in Daniel, it's in Revelation, it's in Isaiah, it's in Jeremiah. I still haven't done a video where I lay out all the characteristics of Mystery Babylon, and then when you do that and just lay them all out, dozens and dozens of those characteristics, it becomes very clear that America is Mystery Babylon. There's no other conclusion that you can come to. But it's interesting in light of America having this national level sin again, the murder and the sexual abuse of children. And that sin in the scriptures is associated with the millstone, and then the destruction of Mystery Babylon is also associated with the millstone. That because of this national level sin, Mystery Babylon gets cast into the sea and never rises again. And understand what Jesus Christ himself, with his own words, was saying in these passages is that it's better for you to die a miserable death, because drowning is supposedly pretty awful and painful. It is better for you to die a miserable death than to abuse little children. I personally would not want to be Jeffrey Epstein, but the reality is that when the rulers of a nation are doing evil, often the people of that nation too they suffer in the judgment of that nation. And some people have put it this way: if God doesn't punish America for the things that we've done, he would have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. We're way worse. We are way worse. I've had pastors, well-meaning pastors who unfortunately are just blind and ignorant, say things from the pulpit like the ancient world was far more wicked than modern America. You say that, but that's just because you're a nice person. You don't really understand what's going on in modern America. None of the evils of the ancient world went away, and in many cases they have become much more heinous and debauched due to modern technology and people's increased ability to conceal these things and to magnify them with wealth and the ability to transport goods and people and all this other stuff. You know, if there's not going to be justice on earth for the evils and the national sins of our country, if we, the people, don't hold these evildoers accountable, then there's going to be justice from heaven. There's going to be justice from heaven. It's coming. America's days are numbered.